What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight it is Wednesday evening. We're going to be going over the Week 11 fantasy preview. We're going to go over every game this weekend and get you guys all the info you need to get you guys ready for the weekend. So I'm on the fantasyfellowship.com. You guys can follow along with the link in the description. We'll go ahead and click right into week 11. And then basically I have at the top of the list here, you have some links where you can see the fantasy points allowed, the waiver wire, some DraftKings Sportsbook stuff, and then a link to the practice report. So that's a very useful link. And then we're looking at the spreadsheet here, which is taken from DraftKings Sportsbook. And it basically, I have it filtered by projections. So team total here, Kansas City Chiefs, projected to score 28.5. Teams at the bottom here, the Panthers only projected to score 15.75. So that's how you read that. You want to kind of avoid red teams and play as many green things as you can. But let's get into the game. the Buffalo is on bye. You have Miami, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, and then we have this Thursday night football game here between the Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers here. The Packers favored to win by 3, 42 implied in this one, so that's interesting. Packers finally got their first win in 5 tries at home on a short week. Ryan Tannehill, he's been practicing in full. He's basically just a quarterback 2 for Superflex League. I'm not super excited about him, but you're starting Derrick Henry for sure. And then on the Titans side, that's really it. We can only start Derrick Henry. I'm open to starting the Titans defense. Again, the Packers offense has only played well for one game. Most often, they do not score more than 20 points. So I'm open to the Titans defense. They did hold the Chiefs offense in check a few weeks back. And then you got guys like Robert Woods, Traylon Burks. I'm hoping to see more Burks. But again, I cannot recommend starting any of these other players not named Derrick Henry. On the Packers side, we're a little bit excited to get these guys in here. And let me actually pull up, let's pull up the fantasy points allowed, because the Titans, they have a fundamentally sound defense here, but they're not very good at defending fantasy points here. So they're green against QB, wide receiver, and tight end. So they're kind of stiff against running back, but they do allow points to those positions that I mentioned before. So Rodgers, top 10, top 12 QB. Again, with Tua, Geno, Tom Brady, and Trevor Lawrence on by, you might be finding yourself needing Aaron Rodgers as a QB1. So I'm fine with that. You're starting Aaron Jones. Continue to start Allen Lazard. He's been a solid wide receiver 3 all season. If you need a tight end, I suppose Robert Tonyan can be your guy. And then it's Christian Watson. I think if you picked up Christian Watson, this is a good week to do it. He's on a short week, and the Titans are not very good defending the long balls in the secondary. So Watson, if you picked him up, he's a wide receiver 3 flex this week. I think you can plug him in. You're going to want him to get targets. 7 to 8 targets is where he should be able to produce enough fantasy points. And again, it's a bit of an unknown with the rookie here. He's really only had one good game, but I'm willing to roll the dice and see what happens. That Packers defense is startable. Again, it's a low scoring game. Not too many things going on in this one offensively. So I'm open to the Packers defense. Dillon, Cobb, Watkins, leave those guys on the bench. I'm going to take Green Bay at home here to cover the 3. The early games on Sunday, you have the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons. On the Bears side, it's all about Justin Fields. I will say they did put Khalil Herbert on IR this week, so that's going to make David Montgomery a pretty nice start in this one. He's a low-end RB2. I did want to – let me actually pull up the practice reports here and see if they have that in there. I don't believe he practiced today. Let me double-check. So I have David Montgomery as a DNP non-injury, so he's not – no concern here on David Montgomery. They're just giving him a day of rest. So he's a fine RB2 with no Khalil Herbert. He might even be your RB1. Cole Kmet's been red hot, catching a ton of touchdowns the last few games. He's a nice tight end 1 option for you this week. And then you have Darnell Mooney, who's, you've removed the first month of football, he's starting to come around as a wide receiver 3 flex. So I'm open to him. Say no to the Bears defense, and Claypool not happening. St. Brown, Pringle. Keep an eye on Treston Ebner as the backup there, but just stick with the guys that I have listed here. On the Falcon side, you have Marcus Mariota, who's a serviceable QB2 for Superflex leagues. I suppose if you need to start him in a QB1 league, I don't hate it. In terms of fantasy points allowed, the Bears are they're average here. They light up green against running back. But that running game might be working for Atlanta today, maybe leading Mariota some red zone drives. So I like Mariota as a QB2. Continue to start Cordero Patterson. Keep in mind, it was a short week last week, and it was his second game back. So that's basically 2 games in 5 days for Cordero Patterson. They were probably just keeping him fresh, but I still want to go to the well with him as my RB2. Kyle Pitts, roll the dice with him. He's kind of a low-end RB or tight end 2. I'd rather play Cole Kmet at this point. And then Drake London. Very similar sides on the ball here. I think the Chicago Bears are coming up as my winner, but London, a wide receiver three flex. It's hard to trust these guys because of the lack of targets. Say no to that Falcons defense. Algier, Zacchaeus, Caleb Huntley. This one's all about Justin Fields. Can he continue doing what he's been doing? I think so. He's got some tough matchups coming up, but take advantage of Justin Fields. He's another top five QB play this week. I'm going to go with the Bears. The Cleveland Browns at the Buffalo Bills. They're forecasting a ton of snow in the Buffalo area, but I don't think it's going to snow on Sunday during the game. So I'm not overly concerned about the weather. It sounds like it's all coming, Thursday, Friday, maybe a little bit into Saturday. So no major concerns. It's going to be cold and windy, though. I guess that's the major concern. So on the Browns side, Jacoby Brissett, just a QB2 for Superflex leagues. I don't love it. Nick Chubb, you're going to continue to start Nick Chubb. I think Amari Cooper, you ride the ups and downs. You don't want to miss a big game from Cooper. This is a home game. He's been traditionally, I guess, usually this year he's been bad at on the road. But fire him up as a wide receiver 2 or 3. I have Njoku listed as questionable. He did not practice today. I'm gonna lean towards him being more doubtful than questionable. We'll see if he can play. If no Njoku, I like Donovan Peoples-Jones as a wide receiver 3 flex, who's actually been a really nice wide receiver 3 flex going forward. So fire up DPJ. Kareem Hunt, he's kind of more on the flex side of things right now. I don't really trust him. You could, I suppose, if you wanted to play him, you could. We might need to see Cleveland pass the ball in this one. Say no to the Browns defense. Harrison Bryant might get the start if Njoku's out. We don't like it for fantasy. David Bell down here. On the Buffalo Bills side, of course, you're starting Josh Allen. I think Devin Singletary has cemented himself as a solid RB2 flex play. You're starting Diggs. Continue to, again, my take on Gabriel Davis all year is you start Gabe Davis every week. You know you're either going to get 20 or you're going to get 5, and that's just kind of the way it is. If you want something more consistent, go with that option. Dawson Knox can be a tight end 1 for you. And then Isaiah McKenzie, just kind of a low-end PPR wide receiver 3 flex option. Start that Bills defense, and then James Cook, Naheem Hines, Khalil Shakir, leave these guys all on the bench. I think Buffalo gets back on track in this one after dropping 2 in a row. The Eagles at the Indianapolis Colts. You got Jalen Hurts, must start. There's no questions on him. You're starting Miles Sanders. I know he didn't have a great game the other night, but maybe they're just keeping him a little bit fresh. AJ Brown, you're starting AJ Brown. You're starting Devonta Smith. Now, the Colts are pretty stingy on defense here. They are allowing the 9th fewest fantasy points per game here, and they are bright red against the wide receiver position. So I believe they are the best team against the wide receiver. Yep. So they rank first in points allowed here. I guess not a great matchup for AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, but on the I guess the positive note, Dallas Goedert's not going to be in the game. So maybe if you have AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, the targets are going to be split evenly amongst them too. So continue to use them, guys. I don't think there's a tight end that we can trust behind Dallas Goedert. They did put Goddard on IR today, so that's going to be Jack Stoll and maybe Tyree Jackson. Leave all these other guys on the bench. Start that Eagles defense. Continue to rely on them. On the Colts side, Matt Ryan's back. Matt Ryan's a QB2 for Superflex. Nothing more, nothing less. You're starting Jonathan Taylor. Continue to feel free. Starting Michael Pittman Jr. as a wide receiver 3 flex. And then Paris Campbell is actually an interesting guy in PPR league. You probably picked him up this week, and he's open. I'm open to him being, like a double-digit guy, maybe 10 to 12 points. Kind of like a Curtis Samuel type play going forward. So I like Paris Campbell. Say no to that Colts defense. And then Pierce, Granson, Deion Jackson will leave these guys on the bench. I'm going to go with Philadelphia. It is on the road, but I doubt Philadelphia loses 2 in a row at this point. Moving on to the New York Jets at the New England Patriots. This is going to be an ugly game offensively. I think Zach Wilson's an emergency QB2 for Superflex leagues. You can start Michael Carter as a low-end RB2, but he's going to be splitting time with James Robinson, who's now pretty healthy coming off the bye week. So I don't know which one is the better play this week. I think they're both, kind of top 30 running backs. No one's going to be blowing up unless they get the touchdowns. But Garrett Wilson, kind of the only guy I trust at the receiver position as a wide receiver 3 flex. Maybe start the Jets defense. We know Mac Jones has been turnover prone, and I don't expect the Patriots offense to light it up on the scoreboard. Elijah, Corey Davis, Tyler Conklin, Uzama, I just don't trust any of these guys, but I'm open to Elijah. It sounds like they want to use him more in the slot. Maybe he gets more look after the bye week here as he kind of gets eased back into the offense. On the Patriots side, it's all about Ramondre and Jacoby Myers. You're starting both of these guys. Ramondre remains a top 10 back, and I think Jacoby Myers is a nice PPR wide receiver 3. Again, Mac Jones, kind of like Zach Wilson. These guys are emergency QB2s in Superflex leagues, nothing more. And then go ahead and start that. I trust the Patriots defense. I suppose I trust the Jets defense a little bit too, but I trust the Patriots a little more. Damian Harris, Parker, Jonnu, Hunter Henry, Thornton, just leave all these guys on the bench. It's extremely untrustworthy, the offenses in this game, but I'm going to lean the Patriots. Both teams coming off a bye. We'll see what happens. Moving on to the Rams at the Saints. Cooper Kupp was put on IR today. I don't know if we're going to see him again this season. Again, it's week 11. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, if he's more out towards 6 weeks, we might not see Cooper Kupp play again this year. Depends on where the Rams are at in the playoff race. But on that note, Matthew Stafford, man, he's a quarterback too for Superflex. He's like a top 20 quarterback right now. This is like one of the worst offenses in the league. You remove one of the best players on that team, if not the best player on offense, bad things are going to happen. So what does this mean for the rest of the guys? Tyler Higbee's probably the biggest winner here. I think if you need a tight end one, he's going to probably lead the team in targets going forward. Darrell Henderson, a low-end RB2 desperation flex play. Allen Robinson, sure, in theory, he should see more targets, but I don't know if that translates to more fantasy points for Allen Robinson. He's been pretty bad this year. So he's more of a desperation flex wide receiver 3. You have Kieran Williams. I don't know if it's Kieran or Kyron, but I'm expecting more Kyron Williams this week. He did look good on his 4 touches last week. He got 39 yards on his 4 touches, and 3 of those were catches. So I think PPR value might be there for Kieran. And then Van Jefferson. I mean, if I'm going to own a receiver, I'd rather own Van Jefferson over Allen Robinson at this point because I know Van Jefferson's pretty fast. He can get open for some big plays, and I think he's going to be probably looking like the more fresh player at this point. I'm open to starting that Rams defense. I don't love it. Skowronek, Akers, just say no to these guys. On the Saints side, I mean, it's Kamara and Olave. Those are the only guys that we're like locking into our lineups. Andy Dalton's a super flex option if you need it. I'd rather play Andy Dalton than Matthew Stafford. I think the Saints offense looks better than the Rams in this one. And then I guess the big news here, if Andy Dalton loses this game, it's probably going to be Jameis Winston going forward. So don't be surprised about that. If you play in Superflex leagues and Jameis is out there, it's a good week to stash him. If you need a tight end, Juwan Johnson, man, he's been catching touchdowns. He's gotten some double-digit games. I think at this point we're done with the Taysom Hill project. Like we can't risk a 0. Like he's gotten nothing the last couple games. I don't even want to mess with him in my lineup. I'd rather start Juwan Johnson at this point. And then Jarvis Landry, just a low-end wide receiver 3 flex play, kind of an emergency play if you need it. Start that Saints defense against this bad Rams offense, and that's about it. This is probably one of the uglier games of the noon slate. Who would have thought Rams Saints at the beginning of the year this would be an ugly game? But I'm going to lean with the Saints. We'll see what happens. I think Andy Dalton in that offense looks a little bit better. It's at home as well. Let's look at the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants. On the Giants side, not really getting much production out of anybody else besides Saquon Barkley, but Darius Slayton is becoming a guy that I somewhat trust. I think 4 of his last 5 games, he's gone over double digits. Of course, he had the big catch and run touchdown last week. He's looking like a wide receiver 3 flex. I kind of would put him in like the same category as a Donovan Peoples-Jones, who just, somehow continues to find a way to make plays with just, not a lot of targets, somewhere between 4 and 6 targets per game. But when he gets the opportunities, he makes plays. So I like Slayton. He should be rostered in 12-team leagues. And then Daniel Jones. I mean, this week I think he's a quarterback 1. He's a top 10 QB play. Stream him if you need to. Start that Giants defense. Kenny Golladay, Hudson, Wan'Dale Robinson. Just not trusting these guys. Keep it simple with the Giants offense. On the Lions side, Jared Goff looks nice as a QB2. I suppose if you needed him, if he's the only guy available that you want to stream in a QB1 league, I'm fine with it. I don't love it, but Jamal Williams remains a steady RB2 option. He's got a good chance at scoring a touchdown, just as good as anybody else in the league right now. You're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I believe DeAndre Swift. I know he's been frustrating. He's gotten touchdowns, though, the last couple games, so I like what he's been doing. He's a low-end RB2 flex play. I think in PPR leagues, you get the boost, so go ahead and start him in PPR leagues. No to the Lions defense, no to Josh Reynolds, no to Raymond, no to Wright, no to Jack, just no to the bench. We're at the point in the season where you stick with the studs. We know how this offense wants to operate. I don't want to risk, a 0 or something like that. So I'm going to go with the Giants in this one, but I do think that the Lions could be pesky, especially if Daniel Jones turns the ball over. Let's make this one quick. The Panthers at the Ravens. I am not excited about Baker Mayfield. I should probably spell his name right. But on the Panthers side, you're starting Deonta Foreman in your lineup as an RB2. Like, that's fine. He's up in a top 15 play. And then DJ Moore is it's kind of a gross wide receiver 3 flex. I'm totally cool with fading this Panthers offense this week because it is Baker Mayfield, who's been pretty garbage this year. which it makes me wonder, like, should I even start Deonta Foreman? I think all Carolina guys are questionable. I do not trust it. Say no to the defense. Say no to Marshall, Hubbard, Tremble, Laviska Shenault. Let me know if you guys have questions on your Panthers. I think Foreman's the only guy that I feel okay with because he's going to get volume. On the Ravens side, we're waiting to help to Mark Andrews. He did practice today limited, so we'll see. He's on track to play. I would imagine he's going to play. Fire him up if you can. You're going to start Lamar Jackson even if Mark doesn't play. But then after that, we got some flex appeals here. Kenyon Drake, Gus Edwards, Devin Duvernay. Now, I think I could flip a coin, basically, and say, yeah, heads is Drake, tails is Gus Edwards. One of those guys will probably have a touchdown this week. I don't know who. Drake looked really good before the bye week. He looked damn good. And then Gus Edwards himself looked pretty good before his hamstring injury. So I think both guys could be, in play this week. And if we expect this game to go how we think it's going to go, the Ravens should rack up a good amount of volume on the ground and be able to kind of, hold the time of possession and get things established on the ground. So both guys in play. Devin Duvernay, a wide receiver 3 flex play. Start that Ravens defense, and then we'll just leave these other guys here on the bench. Of course, likely is going to be a start if Mark Andrews is out, but this one's shown up all Ravens here off the bye week. The Washington Commanders at the Houston Texans. Texans are simple. Davis Mills is a QB2 for super flex leagues. Continue to use Dameon Pierce. He's a volume hog. He's going to get, he's going to get you, he's going to have a bad game and he'll find a way to get us 10 to 12 points in a PPR format. Nico Collins is actually the better receiver, I think, this week. I'd rather play Nico over Brandon Cooks, but both guys can be used as, low-end wide receiver 3 flexes, although I would rather not if I had to choose. Say no to the Texans D, Akins, Rex Burkhead, Chris Moore, no thank you. We'll see if Eno Benjamin gets activated in this one. They did sign him. That might be less for Rex Burkhead. I'm not worried about Dameon Pierce with Eno there. But the Red Hot Commanders, give it up to Taylor Heineke. He's been playing great. And right now he's a QB2 for Superflex leagues. I like him. He's a top 15 QB play against this Texans D. You have Antonio Gibson. And so I'm operating under the assumption that J.D. McKissic is not going to play. They've been holding him out with a neck injury the last few weeks. So that's been part of the reason why Gibson and Brian Robinson have both been pretty good plays lately. So Gibson, fire him up. Yes. McLaurin's been on fire. He's such a good player. He's a pro's pro, and what I like about him is he's a good dude. He's a humble person. I think next year I'm going to try and get McLaurin on as many fantasy teams as I can because I liked him. I want to root for him. And he's the best Washington player on this team. Curtis Samuel, he's been, only 4 targets in 3 straight games is a concern. They do run the ball with him, though, so I do like that. They're trying to get him the ball, whether it's 5 to 6 times a game. So I think he's a wide receiver 3 flex in PPR formats. It's a good matchup, so lean into it if you need to. And then Brian Robinson, man. If you tell me he's going to get 26 carries in this game, I mean, the Texans are the worst team against the running back. Like here they allow 32 points per game. So with 32 points per game, you take Gibson, you take Robinson, you split that down the middle. That's 16. I think there's room for both guys to eat in this game. So start both. Start the Commanders defense. Dotson, we'll wait and see if there's more on the opportunity for him, but stay away from these guys here on the bench. We'll go with Washington. And let's move on to the late games. Not much of an excitement game here. This is kind of the toilet bowl of the AFC West, but the Raiders at the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, pretty simple. I don't think Jerry Jeudy's going to play. He had a pretty bad ankle sprain, although the information and the MRIs this week came back safe. Like Judy's not going to miss much time, if not maybe just a week or two. So go forward with operating that Judy's not going to play. He missed practice today. So that's going to mean Cortland Sutton's back into our wide receiver 3 graces. If he continues to get 8 to 10 targets, he's going to be a fantasy asset for you. Russell Wilson, a top 15, top 20 QB play, even against the Raiders at home. Greg Dulcich, maybe a tight end 1 option if you need it. And then the running backs. We're playing whack-a-mole here again. Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, both low-end RB2 flexes. It's a good matchup, though, against the Raiders. Start that Broncos defense. Like, the defense remains awesome. KJ Hamler got hurt. He's going to be out for a little bit with the hammy. Kendall Hinton will be their number 2 wide receiver this weekend, and we'll see if Chase Edmonds gets more opportunity this week. On the Raider side, you're starting Devontae and Josh Jacobs. That's it. Derek Carr, QB2 for Superflex leagues. Again, this Broncos defense is good. They allow the fewest fantasy points per game here to the opponent. So that's only, that's 10.5 to the quarterbacks, about 22 to the running backs, about 24 points to wide receivers, and only 12.5 to tight ends. So Broncos are elite. Avoid Derek Carr if you can. Foster Moreau, I'm okay with that. Like if I mean they don't really use two tight ends, so if he's able to get 12 tight end points, I think you're feeling pretty happy about that with no Darren Waller. Maybe the Raiders defense again, because we don't really have a lot of confidence in this Broncos offense. And then Matt Collins, Keelan Cole just leave this junk on the bench. But let's move on here. I think the Broncos at home should do it. Put a fork in the Raiders. The Cowboys at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are picked to lose this game at home. Kind of shocking. Vikings are simple evaluation. Kirk Cousins, I have him as a QB2. I'll probably move him up to a top 10, top 12 QB1. So I'm saying start Kirk Cousins, continue to rely on him. Dalvin Cook, yes. Justin Jefferson, yes. TJ Hawkinson, looking amazing. Like this is the best he's ever looked. His fantasy outlook the rest of the way. After Kelsey, I mean, Mark Andrews is number two, but he's got to get healthy. TJ Hawkinson's probably tight end 3 the rest of the way for me in my book. So I like what he's doing here in Minnesota. Thielen, just kind of a garbage wide receiver 3 flex play. Maybe start that Vikings defense. I don't know if I trust it, but Osborne, Madison just say no here. On the Cowboys side, we'll see if Zeke can play. I think he's going to. But either way, Dak Prescott, a top 10 QB play. You're starting Dak, you're starting Lamb, you're starting Dalton Schultz. Now, the questions come with Michael Gallup, who the Vikings, they allow a lot of wide receiver points. So Gallup's a little bit of a dice roll. He hasn't really shown us much, but he could be a nice in for a nice game this week. And then the running backs. Like I think at this point, Tony Pollard looks so good. Ezekiel Elliott, not so much. I think Tony Pollard's the guy that I would rather start. If I had to choose one, give me the more explosive player here, RB2 for Tony Pollard. Zeke is more of a low-end RB2 flex play at best. Fun game, though. I'm super excited about this NFC matchup here. The Vikings trying to stay in contention for the number 1 seed. They need this game, and we'll see. It's hard to pick. I think the Vikings are going to win this game, but Dallas, after a loss in Green Bay, we'll see if they can make it tight. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game was flex from Sunday Night Football. Now to 325. The Bengals, super simple. No Jamar Chase yet. It might be week 12 or 13 that we see Chase back. But anyways, you have Joe Burrow. He's a top 5 QB play this week. Joe Mixon, a top 5, top 10 running back. T. Higgins with no Jamar Chase. He's a top 10 wide receiver this weekend. And Tyler Boyd is a nice wide receiver 2-3 for you. Get him in your lineups. And then I do like Hayden Hurst as a tight end 1 option for you. So start all those guys. It's really simple. Even start the Bengals defense. I think they're playing pretty well. People are kind of underrating what they can do. And then I just want to do a public service announcement. It's handcuff season. You want to stash backup running backs because who knows? Like all it takes is a Sunday afternoon and a couple running backs go down, and I got Samaje Perine on my bench already. I don't even have to worry about it on the waiver wire this week. So Samaje Perine is a stash for me. Just keep in mind he could be starting if Joe Mixon were to miss any time. On the Pittsburgh side of things, Kenny Pickett, an emergency QB2 for super flex leagues. I do like Najee Harris as a low, like he's a top 25 running back. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I do like Deontay Johnson. I like Pat Freiermuth, and I like George Pickens. I like the passing game options in this one. So if you need these guys, go ahead and use them. And then I actually think Jaylen Warren, man, we might see him more and more and more down the stretch here as Najee Harris has kind of had that foot thing, the knee thing going on all season. Jaylen Warren should be picked up in all formats. That defense is startable. The Steelers defense is startable. Maybe not this week, but maybe going forward. Steven Sims, whatever. I'm going to lean the Bengals, though. Tough matchup for the Steelers. Sunday Night Football, the Kansas City Chiefs at the LA Chargers. I should probably get rid of the 325. It's a Sunday night game. The Chargers it looks like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are going to go. If these guys play, I'm going to get them in my lineups. I'm going to treat them, as I have listed here. Mike Williams is a wide receiver 2. Keenan Allen is a wide receiver 3. You're starting Eckler. You're starting Herbert, no doubt. Everett becomes a little bit of a question. If Mike and Keenan Allen play, I'm a little bit more nervous about Gerald Everett, so let me know if you have questions there. Same thing with Josh Palmer. Now, the reason I'm listing these guys as potential starters is I don't know if Mike and Keenan are going to get full snaps. Maybe Everett and Palmer continue to be relied on in this offense. I actually like Palmer a lot as the wide receiver 3. So questions abound here for the Chargers. Say no to their defense. Leave these guys on the bench. On the Chiefs side, you're starting Mahomes. You're starting Kelsey. Yes, lock those guys away. And then on the injury report today, no MVS, no Hardman, and I believe Juju, no practice. So it's Kadarius Toney season. Kadarius Toney is going to probably come out here and get double-digit targets in this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see a pretty epic game from him in this one against the Chargers. So start Kadarius Toney. And then with Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting phased out last week, I mean, I'm open to Isaiah Pacheco and McKinnon as RB2s. I like McKinnon more so in a PPR format. I like Pacheco in half or standard scoring formats. Let me know if you have RB questions, but pretty simple on both sides here. Start the studs. If MVS plays, I'm not super in love with it. I do think Juju's going to be out, so watch for Hardman and MVS because I think if Hardman plays, I'm open to him as a flex. So I'm probably going to move him up here into that territory. But fun game, a rematch from I think week 2 where Justin Herbert had that rib shot to him and missed a snap and came back in. So I think the Chargers with their backs against the wall, I think they're gonna pull this one out. We'll finish up here with Monday Night Football. The 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray remains questionable. It sounded doubtful today. What they said, that the news that came out today sounded bad. I don't think we're going to see him. If he does not play, Colt McCoy's the guy. But the guys they're going to use, James Conner, yes. DeAndre Hopkins, yes. Even with Colt McCoy, yes. Rondale Moore also looked pretty good too. I know it's a tough matchup against San Francisco, but rely on these 3 guys. Marquise Brown, activated. His practice window has been activated. So interesting option for him. He's probably not going to play this week, but maybe week 12. And then with Zach Ertz out, Trey McBride, interesting tight end one option for you. I don't love it. It's a rookie tight end. Let's wait and see what he looks like in this game before trusting him. So I'm kind of shying away from this Cardinal side of things besides Moore, Hopkins, and Connor. On the 49ers side, things are looking great for this offense. Jimmy Garoppolo, you can stream him if you need someone in a 10 or 12-man league. McCaffrey, yes. Debo, kind of disappointed in Debo. I'd rather have Ayuk right now, but keep firing up Debo. Fire up Ayuk. George Kittle, probably George Kittle week. The Cardinals allow the most points to the tight end position. And then Elijah Mitchell, man, he's been playing. He played one game, but he looked really, really good last week. He actually looked better than McCaffrey. So he's kind of like a running back 2 flex. Consider it how. Look at that Dolphins backfield with Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, the 49ers East. Essentially, that's what we could be looking at, a nice 2-man committee here where both guys are just eating. Start that 49ers defense, leave Jawan on the bench here. Fun game. I think the 49ers begin to take a run here at the NFC West, though. But that's going to do it. That is the Week 11 preview. You guys can access all the information at the link in the description, thefantasyfellowship.com. Subscribe if you are new. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. We're almost approaching 600. I love to hit 600 before Thanksgiving, so help me out if you can. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the live streams. We go live Wednesday every night at 7 p.m. Central Time. We go live every Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, I'll see you guys there. Have a good night. Peace.